I'll give you a little intro if everyone does not know. Chris Down is the EVP and the Chief Design Officer at Mattel, who has spent over 30 years leading the creation of award-winning products, packages, and experience across various industries. At Mattel, he heads global consumer insights, toy design, and innovation across all toy categories, including generational brands like Barbie, Hot Wheels, American Girl, Master of the Universe, Uno, and Fisher-Price. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Down.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. It's been last time we had you on stage was almost exactly a decade ago. So it's like a lot.
I cannot believe, and I had a different job then. I was, I think at that time I was general manager and head of our vehicles division
Yes.
and Hot Wheels, and so very different role. And it has been a while, but it feels good. I like walking in here. What a beautiful location and forum. I mean, of course, across from the beach, but you always know how to pick 'em, Mark.
I try. So I try to find good places for us to talk. All right. Well, let's kick things off here. We have a lot to go through. So definitely, I know everyone wants to hear this. So can you share your career path leading up to your role as Chief Creative Officer?
Yeah. So I was an industrial design student. I went to school in the Midwest. I went to Notre Dame. It was a good liberal arts school, and it took me a while, and I will not go through the journey of actually getting to the point where I was in industrial design. But when I found ID, I loved it, and I thought I was going to be doing heavy machinery, maybe some vehicles. That would have been a dream. I actually spent a summer at the Center for Creative Studies doing transportation design, and realized that dream was a tough reality when some of the most talented in the auto industry, their claim to fame is like the door handle insert for a 1996, Mercury Sable. It's just not as maybe not as dreamy as it seems on the outside. But ID, I always thought the idea of taking an artistic orientation and being able to create products that consumers engage with was interesting. It was my junior year, posted on the wall in studio, where it said, "Ever want to be a toy designer?" And that was a concept that I had never actually considered. And at that time, this was 1992, I sent my slides, I FedExed my slides, and I faxed my resume to Parker Brothers, which was a games division of Hasbro at that time, and the makers of like Monopoly and Trivial Pursuit. And I flew out there. They said, "Come take a look." Flew out there, and it was kind of that sliding doors moment where I couldn't unsee it. And so that got me into the toy industry. I did my internship there, and in 1993 I went full time into making toys. And that twist for me was one of taking kind of the idea, the notion of art and design, and being forced to hyper focus on who it is we are working for. Because kids, they either get it or they don't. They either can do it or they can't. And that aspect of the creative process in being able to observe consumers and create things that are for them. And by the way, if you're 4 years old or 5 years old, it's very different in terms of capabilities and interests than if you're 7 or 8 years old, let alone 17 or 18 years old. And so I was hooked into it from that point of view, not just from the creative problem solving that all design and creative fields represent, but the aspect of consumer insights and consumer observation that I was forced to get into. I did a few years in video games as well. So Hasbro Interactive was a division of Hasbro also. And the translation of solving the problems that I just described in the world of physical games was very similar to the problem solving that you're up against in doing digital games. And so I spent a few years doing that, working on things like reintroduction of Frogger for PlayStation 1, or Transformers Beast Wars, or Boggle and Yahtzee and things like that. And again, very rewarding, but I always kind of missed the physical aspect of toys and play. And so I made a couple of other stops within the digital space, including starting my own company for a while doing mobile phone games pre iPhone. So just imagine any of you that are in in the digital arts, imagine a 144 by 144 pixel, maybe if you're lucky, color screen, TFT, uh, or black and white, and trying to make games on platforms like that, and then have 30 different handsets that you're designing for across 2 platforms, J2ME, which is like Java with the legs cut off, and Brew, which was an even worse variation of kind of a micro programming platform. And I did that for a while. Very very tough business. But Mattel came along, and the challenge there was one, getting back into physical toys, but there was a brand called Pixar Cars, and they had just won the license from Disney. They're like, we need somebody to lead this, and I had some toy experience in the past, some gaming experience, understood kind of the world a little bit from an animation point of view and from a play point of view, and I went to Mattel in 2004, and various points along the way learned how to engage with consumers and create for consumers. And 6 years ago, stepped into a role that went across multi-category. We have 6 categories at Mattel, and a lot of different brands, and have been doing that ever since. Which it's been a great journey, but it's one that has had the same denominator along the way, which is the consumer. And by golly, the consumer is changing constantly, regardless of the platform or the medium. And the one common truth, and I had a few conversations, even just in the back and upstairs, with folks, almost no matter what you're doing, whether it's art and illustration or whether you're designing escape rooms, observing your consumer and listening to them is the kind of North Star that really drives, I think, the best kinds of execution, the best kinds of design. And it really is my beginning story, and it's kind of my end story as well.
That's a great, incredible journey there. Definitely, for sure. We have a video. Should we show a little bit of what the world of Mattel?
We do. So, you fast forward to today, and I mentioned we have 6 categories. Everything from games to fashion dolls to vehicles and action figures and so on. This gives you a little bit of a sense to what Mattel is about. I do want to say this: like, it as many things in life are. It's a team sport, and so a lot of the work, a lot of the visuals that you're going to see are it's a culmination of material that's come out of a lot of different people that work on my team, work on teams that are adjacent. Marketing communication and visual communication are aspects of my world that don't report into me, but I enjoy because they do beautiful videos like the one that you're about to see, that also celebrates Mattel's 80 years young anniversary. So with that, yeah, let's take a look. I feel I feel like we should all get together and have a play session now. And I also feel like I should have brought a bunch of toys and had like a chair drop for the next time I will bring
We'll do
toys.
that for sure. All right. So throughout your career, what have been the biggest lessons in fostering innovation within a company as large and as iconic as Mattel?
Well, I think that there is, first of all, I mean, Mattel existed as evidenced by the video 80 years ago. The company was born almost 90 years ago. Fisher Price was born, Fisher Price's division. We've acquired some companies along the way. Um, And the point there is the company has existed and has thrived long before I ever became a part of it, and it will continue to do so long after I hang up my badge and leave it. And so a big objective that that most of us have, and I'd say it's probably a universal truth for many folks that work at companies that existed before and after them, is leave it better than you found it. And so that's an objective, certainly that I will always that I always have, and it will also guide the kinds of creativities and innovation that comes along with it. So when I'm thinking about like the consumer and thinking about brands like Barney or Thomas the Tank Engine or Barbie or anything, there is an aspect of what what is new and what is interesting in terms of how we're thinking about those brands, and how are we not just leveraging these timeless brands but also making them timely. So the aspect of connecting with culture and listening to our consumers and understanding how we can not just satisfy the itch that they may have, also deliver to the expectation that they may have, because we have brand values, brand equity, where we deliver to a promise that has been preconceived by the consumer, but we're also delighting along the way. I think that the moments that have been formative for me, as far as decisions that have been made or observations, are really the moments when you can kind of sit in a room of creatives, and be influenced by different points of view. I mean, we're a tapestry of creativity, and the value that I've seen, the greatest values that I've seen, and I think we might have some examples a little bit later on, have been moments where we've opened up our eyes, opened up the opportunities to consider concepts, thoughts, and observations of where consumers are at that are not necessarily our own. So right now, I mean, I have a lot of people that work around me, many people that are deep experts within category and brand space. And one of the things that I've learned at certainly at a company like Mattel is the role that someone like me and me, the role that I actually play is unlocking the potential of the creative ideas that surround me every day. And so, uh, unlocker is one significant aspect of the job, and it's something that, I think about the evolution, going from a board designer, somebody who's actually designing the product, maybe wholly responsible for designing an item, to leading teams that have their own passion, have their own cultural observations, and creating the circumstances for them to be able to do their best work and execute.
And so with that, you named off all the different brands that you have under the Mattel realm. How do you balance staying true to these legacies while driving new creative ideas forward?
Yeah, it is a daily thing. So within Mattel, a couple of things that we, just to give you kind of grounding, we do about 4,000 new toys every single year. So 4,000 across 7 categories, and 30 or 35 different brands that we're really focusing on. That's outside of the catalog. That's just kind of the big stuff that we do. So we're constantly inventing and reinventing. And those of you that are familiar with Mattel toys and some of the brands, and maybe you're enthusiasts, um, you'll recognize that we're designing new cars for Hot Wheels all the time. We're designing new dolls for Barbie. We're designing new dolls for American Girl and Polly Pocket and all that, trying to be, again, timeless, so that we're supporting the brand that we've all fallen in love with and the heritage that they represent, but timely in terms of what's happening in society and what is going to drive consumer engagement and desire. Um, but we're also trying and continuously experimenting with what's happening, and how far can we push those boundaries. And by the way, a lot of times in any kind of creative endeavor, what you aspire to do or what you dream to do doesn't necessarily land the way you want it. So failure is a significant part of creative, but it's also a significant part of the toy industry. I mean, stuff every holiday season, we're launching what we launch and praying for it to rain. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. And across those 4,000 toys, a few of them work. A few of them work really, really well. Some of them don't. I have an example that I want to share with you though. And it's an example, and I'm gonna foreshadow it by saying it's an example of a failure. But it's one of my favorite fails, and one of my favorite brands. It's a few years ago, we embarked on a journey, and this is kind of a funny little shot of He-Man uh, going, kind of going into the toolbox and working on this Matchbox car, this Land Rover. And a few years ago, we asked ourselves the question: look, we've got Gen Alpha, these kids that were born in 2010, call it Generation Glass. They learned how to swipe before they learned how to wipe. I mean, it's you guys know. And so the idea that digital is digital play in the iPad, they were born the year that the iPad launched, 2010, was a not just a fad, but it was the new norm. Dig, Digital play, and we all know it. Many of the people in this room grew up. You're probably There's some Gen Alpha in the room. Actually, maybe a lot of Gen Alpha in the room. Um, Love you, by the way. But the notion was, if we were able to take the most ubiquitous toy in the world, the number one selling toy in the world. Anybody have any idea what the number one selling toy in the world is? But you said Barbie and you said Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels has it by volume and by units. So the die-cast car that you buy at Walmart for $1.25, we do about 550 million units every single year. It's the number one selling toy in the world. We sell 18 a second. So we just sold about a couple thousand of them in the last few minutes. Okay. But it's everywhere. Imagine if every car that you bought knew how it was played with, knew how many miles, was unique to me. So it's not just a yellow Land Rover, it's my yellow Land Rover. So we embarked on a challenge, and I think we're just going to roll the video and let you see kind of what we ended up doing. Take a look. Okay, 2019. It was phenomenal. This is a great toy. Anybody in the audience play with Hot Wheels ID? Has anybody? Please tell me. One. We have one. We have one. Thank you. We sold more than one, but just barely. I'm kidding. Actually, we actually sold a lot. I think it did like 40 or 50 million bucks. But it also had huge ambitions that we were going to revolutionize the way that consumers engage with Hot Wheels, and we were going to really kind of shift the model. I'm throwing a couple of QR codes up here because I would love you to check out the old tapes, especially the Harvard Business School one is a little bit academic, but the podcast, the Team History podcast, is an interesting one because it really gets into the dynamic of how we were taking a big bet. And for a company like Mattel, I mean, we invested a significant amount in this. You can imagine kind of the complexity, both from a manufacturing, from a technology, from a play point of view, the app, the whole ecosystem that we were creating. We actually took it to market through Apple stores at launch. So very different type of launch strategy. It wasn't Walmart and Target. It was a very different launch strategy because we wanted to drive trial. It was badass. You play with it, and it was really fun. So we wanted trial. But I share it because it's two examples that I think are kind of important, and worth sharing. One is an example of the constant drumbeat, the constant desire, and the constant drive to invent and to reinvent against these, at this time, 2018 Hot Wheels was 50, so 51 years old. This 51-year-old brand doing something that is new and taking a risk while doing it. The second piece that I want to share is just the reality of failure. Sometimes you observe your consumer, you really think it's baked in insights, and you've got the right idea. You do all of the right things, and it doesn't necessarily work. And in this case, it didn't work. It didn't meet our expectations. It worked depending on how you're looking at it, but it didn't meet the expectations that I had, that Mattel had. And that is one of the stark realities of creative fields. And you're going to be listening to Dan later. I don't know if he's got failure stories, but I'm sure that they aren't all Phineas and Ferb, which is incredible. But I would submit that in any creative endeavor, the potential for failure and the reality of failure, even in a school project, is there. But you let that fuel you forward. You learn the moments, you learn the lesson, and you take it and you move on. And for Mattel, what I will tell you we learned is we actually, following this project, we restructured ourselves to ensure that we were able to continue to take innovative swings and do things that were difficult, unconventional, in some cases inconvenient for the company, and that we institutionalized it so we could continue to repeat based on something that took a huge load to deliver, didn't work out, but we want to continue to do these types of things.
Well, you touched on a lot there, and one of the things I want to know about is what does that creative process look like at Mattel when you bringing in designers, marketers, engineers, and that? Give us a little look under the hood there.
Yeah, I wish I had brought a video. I don't have a good video to give you a sense of what the world of Mattel looks like. I will say this: we're to give you a little bit of, like, go with me on this journey to the Global Design Center that's in El Segundo, California. It's anywhere between 50 minutes and 5 hours from here, depending on how bad traffic is. Um, and it is an amazing place because there are, imagine, 700 people in a single building, kind of like an aircraft hangar, that are creators. There are designers and engineers and fabricators and artisans, and marketers that are inside of that building. We have 5 buildings on campus, but the design center is the special place because it's where we can create anything. Um, and I mean that literally. I mean, we've got everything from rotocasting to an incredible 3D printing lab to a sculpting, haptic arm sculpting lab, to a chemistry lab, to a sound studio, to a sound stage, all inside of this one building. And that's about half the creative workforce. The other half is in Shenzhen, China, and Hong Kong. So there are people all over the world, kind of married to the creative process. And as I mentioned at the very top of the conversation, we don't do anything by ourselves. It's a team sport. And so there's heavy reliance on the cross-functional teams. We call it the kind of the four legs of the stool. You got engineering, you got design, you have marketing, and you have consumer insights, and everybody is kind of working together to observe the consumers, look at the signals, come up with the concepts, and then ultimately execute for manufacture and go to market with wonderful commercials and sizzles and customer engagement. So the way we work is extremely iterative. So we're doing, I mentioned, 4,000 new toys a year. Our average toy development cycle takes about 15 months is the average. Sometimes, I mean, we sprint. The day that we first saw, the day the Mandalorian came out, what was that, 4 years ago, 5 years ago? We were up. We happened to be up at Lucasfilm day after, and we literally pitched to do, like, we need to do Baby Yoda, we need to do Grogu, and we did, and it was like a killer. I mean, as every sale that Hot Wheels ID didn't make, Grogu made. I mean, it was like on fire, and that was a 5 month from that day up in the Bay Area to the day that it hit the shelves, 5 months. So we can go very fast. And then other things like Hot Wheels ID was over 2 years long. So we work on some pretty long cycles, and then we're working with our Asia counterparts, but also manufacturing, and we manufacture all over the place. A little bit in China, a little bit in Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam. And so the teams do work together, though. There's a very reliant culture inside of Mattel of one, um, knowing what you're an expert at and being really good at it. And then two, having everybody else's back on the team. Because if you're covering them, they are covering you, and the toy development process is a complicated one. Like a lot of processes, but the if you think about everything from the the hand painting that goes on every Hot Wheels car, every Monster High face goes through a process where it's hand painted as the paint master before it goes digital, and we get ready for tampo and spray and all of and DIJ and all of the processes from a manufacturing point of view. Every hair is rooted. Like, we're rotocasting heads for dolls, and then rooting the hair, styling it, getting everything perfect so that when it does go to manufacture, it looks the way that we've defined it. And it doesn't just look that way on a sketch. So here are some great sketches, but it looks that way in a 3D model. And that is a lot of the activity that we're responsible for and that happen in our El Segundo design headquarters.
So with the success of the Barbie movie, I heard a couple of you say ooh and ahs when you saw that up on the screen there. How does Mattel plan to expand into film, TV, and digital media further?
So we have 20 movies in some form of development and a couple movies deep in production. So right now, Masters of the Universe next summer is going to be coming out. We also have a Matchbox movie coming out. Matchbox is with Apple, and Masters of the Universe is with Amazon. So it's a theatrical release next June. We're filming right now, so we're in the UK at Sky Studios, and Wicked moved out. We're literally on the Wicked sets. Like, we've taken over four of their biggest sound stages, and Masters of the Universe moved in. I was out there a few weeks ago, and it is just, I mean, it's mind blowing. I should have grabbed some photos and pulled them up of the studio, although actually I'm not allowed to, so I guess I shouldn't have. But it is it's something that Mattel is eager to do, because part of our strategy is leveraging the value of our IP. What we know is that toys, while it's a mainstay and the genesis for the majority, if not all, of the brands that are in our portfolio, the way that we connect with consumers goes far beyond just toys. Movies are one aspect of it. We saw it with the Barbie hit movie, $1.4 billion at the box office, was great. Um, and we are also seeing it with video games, with live events as well. So, for example, I mean, Day Out with Thomas. Not sure if any of you guys have ever experienced it. It's a huge traveling, way for families to engage with the Thomas brand and Thomas the character. We have the world's largest traveling car show called the Hot Wheels Legends Tour. That's another thing that started actually in 2018 in the parking lot of the Design Center, and is now 21 locations and tens of thousands of people. The winner gets their car made into a Hot Wheels, so that's kind of the get. It's pretty awesome. And that's now a global event. And we have Hot Wheels monster trucks. I don't know if you guys have gone to any of the arena shows. Yes, we got a thumbs up. Thank you for your patronage. So connecting with consumers the way that they want to play through all of the mediums and the moments that families, kids, and adults connect is a big deal. How we do that is it's important and there's nuance. And I think that why did the Barbie movie work, and why do any of these live events or video games work? Some of them don't. Many of them do. I think that part of the secret sauce is authenticity. Is it authentic to the brand? Is it representing the brand in the way that people have the appetite to consume the brand in? And does it also give you something unexpected? Is there something new and fresh that isn't just, "Mm, I expected that and you're giving it to me"? I you have to kind of scratch both itches, which is give me something that I do expect, but also surprise me with something that I don't. So it's a it's a loose formula, I'd say. However, the creative minds, in the case of Barbie, Greta Gerwig, in the case of live events, and even our film team, we have creatives internally that are constantly pushing the boundaries and trying to figure out what is that edge of recognition as well as timeliness. Timelessness times timeliness is kind of the formula. By the way, one of the things, and actually it's kind of represented in a lot of what's up here. In fact, this is all of these sketches are from Mattel Creations, which Mattel Creations is a platform that is for adults only. It's a direct to consumer platform, but Mattel Creations is kind of an umbrella name for anything that is for the 13 plus consumer. I bring it up because the very question of like how do we continue to engage and how do we connect, it's gotten more complicated over the last few years. The fastest growing consumer segment for toys is the adult consumer. In 2024, last year in spring, exactly a year ago, the 13 plus consumer overtook, as far as consumer segment, the the number one selling demographic segment in toys. A lot of that is Mattel. A lot of that is Lego. I mean, anybody buy botanicals or icons or yeah, I mean, it's like exactly. I mean, we are all fans. Some of us are super fans, and some of us never grow up. We just did this. We just did this study, and this is you're not even asking this question, but we did a study last year, and it's called Shape of Play. We're just now releasing. In fact, CBS we're going to be releasing. So you guys are early. You guys are hearing it first here. We interviewed 33,000 people because we understand kids. We understand the science behind kids. We understand kind of what makes them tick, ages and stages. What are they into? There's a dynamic aspect of that, but we understand kind of the science of kids and play. What we don't know, what we really didn't know is like what is the general sentiment of people, like older people, not just 13 plus, but I'm talking like 60, 70, 80. Like, what are the boomers doing? What are they interested in? How do they play? And so we did this 33,000 person survey. We went out and actually interviewed people around the world, 7 different countries and locations: Finland, South Africa, Japan, the US, like all over the place, really to understand directly from consumers what do they think and why do they play. And what we found was, I'm not going to bore you with all the statistics, although they're actually quite interesting, is 70% of adults consider themselves still partially a kid. I mean, I feel like I'm 100% kid. Like but it's an occupational hazard. Like I'm surrounded by toys and kids all the time, but 70% of adults consider themselves part kid. So it's not just nostalgia. Like, oh, I remember Barbie, and so I want to buy one and put it on my shelf. But people are actually engaging in play because they actually feel playful. They're engaging in play because maybe they are a collector. Maybe they're accumulating their collection. I love Hot Wheels cars. I'm going to get them all, or I'm going to get the red ones, or I'm going to get, you know, Japanese imports or whatever. Or maybe it's to create connections, social connections. That's a big part of what drives play in it's connecting with others that have similar interests. Um, or it could be just learning and growing, like playing in order to develop skill, getting better. Pickleball, for Pete's sake. So the idea that play is alive and healthy is uh, not a surprise. How adults, how consumers of all ages actually engage in it was a little bit more of, in some cases, a surprise, but also an endorsement. In fact, there are a couple. Toys is art, art inspired by toys. It's kind of a notion, a tagline that we have for Mattel Creations. But a couple of other, if we flip to the next slide, here's some stuff. This looks like a normal day in the office at Mattel, but you have toys and products, little people interpreted, WWE figures interpreted, Uno interpreted, Magic 8 Ball interpreted in different ways. I mean, the mashup of, what do we have over here? Oh, Tanami times Uno. I don't know if you guys know Tanami is a Japanese artist. He just passed away, but we did a partnership with him, and it's like taking fine art and the idea of art and mashing it up with iconic toys is something that one artists totally into. In fact, if we have time, I'll show a video at the end. But the idea of taking pop culture and fusing it, if you flip to the next slide, Mark, I don't know if
I know Daniel
you know
Arsham very
Daniel
well.
Arsham.
Yes.
Any Daniel Arsham fans in the audience? Yeah. It's like if we had prizes, I'd be like, okay, and a Daniel Arsham car for you. There's Daniel's 930 Porsche, the whole idea of his eroded series and how that translates into the Hot Wheels space. But we've done 4 drops. We have a surprise 5th coming with Daniel in the near future. But it's these mashups are wild because it's stoking fandom from different places and bringing it from kind of the serious world of art or the serious world of vehicles into the less serious world of play. And so it allows for this 70% of consumers that still see themselves as kids to come and play and maybe feel like they're part of a community, something bigger, and it makes it okay.
And we got one last one over here too.
One last one. I mean, I love this shot. Our Marcom team pulled it together, taking our Tanami drops and actually taking some of our minifigures and putting them into an environment that kind of says what it is and does what it says, which is putting toys as art on the wall. And you know the idea with these things is you can actually play with them. Yes, it's a working Magic 8 Ball. We did it with Shepherd Fairy as well, that one was cool. Gray Malin, yeah, I mean, you name it. We've done a bunch of these kinds of drops where we're attracting people in from these pockets of interest and kind of creating these mashups that are delighting fans. So kind of back to the original question and the original answer of like, how are we keeping our brands fresh? It's giving people something that is recognizable because it's paying homage in the right way to the brand heritage, but it's doing something new with it that's unexpected or a surprise. And that has been a big part of the formula for how we're engaging more sophisticated consumers. Although you could still be like 7 years old and have a good time with this stuff.
I'm in that 70% group. I'm guilty. Definitely guilty. My wife can admit that one for sure. So to wrap up here in a little bit, what advice do you have to all the young creatives in here on how to break into the toy and entertainment and product design industries?
First of all, I think that when I was in school, and I will go back a little bit to my dad. My dad is an industrial designer. He was actually an industrial design professor. My sister's an industrial designer as well. So I grew up in a creative household, and I was somewhat artistic as a kid. Before I discovered that ID was the place that I wanted to go, um, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and that's okay. Everything I did do, though, I really kind of like leaned into it heavily. And so when I took my first industrial design course, where I truly the light flipped on, it was called Visual Dialogue. That was the name of the course. It was visual communication, and I mean we were doing, it's like doing soap bottles and kind of things that are everyday objects and learning how to visually communicate them, rendering, drawing. At that time, computers, it was not major. We had a couple of Next computers. I don't know if you guys remember those in Design Studio, but it was like Illustrator One. I don't even remember at this point, but the I remember having a conversation with my dad, and he was like, "Look, if you really do want to do industrial design, if you want to do design, you don't want to take an art path or fine arts path or whatever. You just have to remember that you are in service of others, And so, and he actually said it's the prostitution of art. And so it was a different day. And he like, but you're selling. If people are not buying what you're putting down, then there's a problem. If you're working for a company like Mattel or a lot of other companies where you're paid to design something that ultimately is to stoke desire and create consumption. And to me, those words have served me well along the way. And actually, was having a couple of conversations prior to even coming up here, where observing the consumer has been the secret sauce for being able to create things that consumers actually care about. And you start out and everybody's got that first pancake. It's not always perfect. In fact, most of the time it isn't perfect, but you put it in front of your consumer, you listen to your consumer, you react, and you evolve, and your next pancake is better. I think probably the biggest piece of advice I have, I'll give you a couple of pieces, but one of them is to one, listen to your consumer and observe and trust them. One consumer isn't necessarily right, but it's a signal. What you do with that will allow you to evolve and deliver better to your consumers. The second piece that I would say is I think it's more around in a company like Mattel, where there are, including our manufacturing plants, I mean, something like 28,000 people at Mattel. We have about 10 or 11,000 people in corporate. But always show up with your best work, and that doesn't mean that it has to be the best, meaning that's the final answer, but the best that you can deliver. I know for me and those that I observe and that I work with, if the effort is going in, the curiosity is there, understanding the consumer, supporting your brethren across the aisle, and always putting it all on the table, um, it it builds reputation. It also solidifies character, and to me, it also allows you to be seen in your best light, and that creates opportunities. And the opportunity that you feel like is the one that you imagine today isn't necessarily the opportunity that's going to resonate with you tomorrow. What I know, even at Mattel, being at Mattel I've been there for 20 years now, um, is I've had 6 different jobs at Mattel. The simple formula of observing, supporting others, and giving it my best. It sounds very Pollyanna as I hear it coming out of my mouth, but I will tell you that is my advice, and that's what I stand by as part of the recipe for me in terms of how I've been able to experience things and have the privilege of working at a company like Mattel doing what I do today.
That's great. Well, we only have a minute or two left here. Do you want to tease up the next video here and talk
Yeah,
about
sure. You know what? And this is almost a little bit of a PSA, but I think it'll be fun. We just a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, launched an LA exhibit. It's an example of how we're trying new things and different things with consumers. It takes the spirit of uh, art inspired by toys and toys inspired by or toys as art. And we have a gallery show at the Corey Helford. I don't know if any of you guys have been up there in downtown LA, but we have a show going on right now through the 19th. So this is less a sales pitch, but more just an indication of how we're connecting with our consumer in different and unique ways with our brands. So with that, take a look.
Welcome to the Corey Helford Gallery.
There is no better way to celebrate Mattel's 80th birthday than at a gallery opening.
It is Mattel's 80th anniversary, and around us we are surrounded by 80 pieces of art from 80 artists who have taken Mattel brands as inspiration to create their own amazing works of art.
Seeing our toys come to life as art and art as toys is what this vision was like when it started a few years ago.
The artists just really showed up with amazing pieces of work. The gallery came together to tell the story of Mattel, and it just brings a little bit of a tear to my eye. People are lined up around the block to get into this place, and the energy telling you their stories
about how they grew up with Mattel toys. It is so rewarding.
Everyone's talking about the art, they're talking about the toys. Exactly what we could have ever wanted.
Collaborating with Mattel is something I always dreamt about doing.
Doing a collaboration with Mattel is kind of a childhood dream come true.
I was fascinated by He-Man, Masters of the Universe as a kid.
I have so many memories with Mattel. My fondest one was Uno.
My inspiration is obviously Polly Pocket.
Obviously, it's about the Magic 8 Ball.
It's so fun to see what other artists think about our brands, how they think about our brands, getting all those different perspectives.
We have everything to celebrate our brands being reimagined and reinterpreted.
Very nostalgic for me, seeing images on canvas of toys that I grew up with, playing with. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Mattel, if you really want to make this into an actual toy, let me know. Give me a call.
Check it out. Check it out. I mean, and you guys are probably familiar with some of the artists up there: D-Face, Mark Ryden, Gary Baseman. I mean, Gary Baseman was on fire there. He just had a signing as well. But go check it out. It's fun, and it is kind of the one of the more recent ways that we're connecting with consumers and hopefully creating fans.
Well, with that, I hate to bring this to an end. Thank you so much for being here, and it's incredible insight.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mark, and thank all of you for joining.